All right, it is 6:30, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. In keeping with an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, as amended by Governor Baker on February 12th, 2022, this meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live on Facebook and recorded on ECAT. This meeting is open to the public and will take questions via the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Please make sure to include your full name and address. We'll do our best to answer all questions. However, we will not read questions that have already been answered. All right. First up is minutes. So we have the regular school committee meeting minutes of Thursday, May 12th, 2022. Any questions, comments, edits? All right, can I get a motion to accept the regular school committee meeting minutes of Thursday, May 12th, 2022?
O'Neill, so moved.
Second, DeLuca.
All right, roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durance, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, thank you. Next is regular school committee meeting minutes from Friday, May 20th, 2022. Questions, comments, edits? Can I get a motion to approve the regular school committee meeting minutes for Friday, May 20th, 2022?
So moved, DeLuca.
Can I get a second?
Star, second.
Roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durance, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, thank you. Next up is the regular school committee meeting minutes from Tuesday, May 31st, 2022. Questions, comments, edits? Can I get a motion to accept the regular school committee meeting minutes from Tuesday, May 31st, 2022?
Michelle, I actually do have a question. I know it's fairly straightforward language, but in the paragraph on the motion, it mentions the bargaining position of the school committee. I don't think that applies here. I don't know what language we normally use for that particular executive session.
Okay.
Maybe we can revisit this one.
Should review controversial scholarship. Are you looking at the 31st?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That is the same.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I
Yeah.
don't think I said that.
Oh, bargain, yes.
Yeah, I think we can probably just strike that. I know it's language it might have just carried over. So I think we can just put a period after applicants and strike the remainder of that sentence.
Yep. I think I said would be detrimental to the process of scholarships or something like that. Then can we go back and get the wording from that one? All right, so can I get a motion to accept the regular school committee meeting minutes from Tuesday, May 31st, 2022 with the corrected sentence?
Star, so moved.
O'Neill, second.
All right, roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durance, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, thank you. All right, we're on to executive session. Executive session meeting minutes from Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. Does anyone want me to hold them? All right. Can I get a motion to accept but not release the executive session school committee meeting minutes from Tuesday, May 17th, 2022?
Wiseman, so moved.
Can I get a second?
DeLuca, second.
Roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durance, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, thank you. Executive session meeting minutes from Friday, May 20th, 2022. Does anyone want me to hold them?
Yes, please.
That happens so rarely. I forget. Do we have to vote or do I just hold them? I just hold them. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Executive session meeting minutes, Tuesday, May 31st, 2022. Anyone want me to hold that?
No, there is one typo. I believe I could be mistaken, but Lynn, I believe under the in the paragraph, the sentence immediately following the bulleted list, and Caroline or Nancy, you might know, does Oaks there have an E typically? It's OAKES.
Yes,
Okay.
OAKES, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So Lynn, if that typo can just be corrected.
All right. Can I get
Sure.
a thanks, Lynn. Can I get a motion to accept but not release the executive session meeting minutes of Tuesday, May 31st, 2022 with that one typo correction?
O'Neill, so moved.
Can I get a second?
Star second.
Roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durant, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, thank you. And in comes Dave. All right, approval of annual contracts. Chrissy and Dave.
Sure, thank you so much. Each year, we review annual goods and services contracts. We are at that time of the year. David Twombly is here to address those contracts and answer any questions that you may have. David?
Yep, so Chrissy really captured basically what we have to do here. So all of the vendors I'm going to present to you are all on state contract, or they belong to the Mass Higher Education Consortium. So this allows us to get the best pricing on goods and services. So the list when we first started this wasn't as big as it is now, but due to the pandemic and the fact that we use multiple vendors for different types of services, whether it's custodial supplies or technology. So the list is somewhat expanded, but it's basically, some of it's driven by the supply chain, but some of it's also just driven by the fact that we have multiple vendors that do different types of stuff for us. So with that, I'll just kind of read through the list. There's probably like 15 of these companies on there. And then at the end, if you have any questions, you can ask me questions. And then at the end, if everybody agrees, we'll have a motion to approve all the contracts. So the first one we have is Advanced Air. They're on the trade contract with the state, and they basically do a lot of rooftop units. They do mechanical systems. Airex Filters, they provide us with filters for the univents. So that's an important contract to have. Banner Systems, they provide us with custodial or facilities equipment. Barbizon provides us with theater equipment and lighting. CDW Government, that's more of a technology type of piece of equipment that we purchase. Cherry Road is also very similar. It's a technology equipment through Mass Higher Education Consortium. They provide us with network services. Clean Cut Solutions is again, it's a facilities custodial type contract. Core Business Systems is a technology contract. DeMoro Carpet and Tile is on the Mass Higher Education Consortium, and they repair rugs and tile and that type of stuff. A local company that we're glad to do business with is Fernandez Lumber. They're on the facilities contract, FAC 105. FM Generator, they service our generator that's at the schools, and they're on the trade contract. Gibson Roofing is another trade contract. They do roofing repairs and inspect roofs. Gronk Fitness Equipment, they're on Mass Higher Education Consortium, and we purchase fitness equipment from them to repair stuff or replace equipment at Oliver Ames in the middle school. Industrial Burner Systems, they're also on the state contract, and they're under the trades contracts for burner systems, boilers. Janko is another local company that does kitchen and food service equipment. So they come in and we purchase equipment from them. They also service some of our equipment if it breaks down. The next one is M.E. O'Brien. They're a company that we purchase playground equipment from, like swing sets, all kinds of stuff. Rubber mulch, they'll sell that type of stuff, seats. So they're a really important contract there. New England School Services, they provide doors and hardware and stuff like that. They're on the Mass Higher Education Consortium. Norfolk Power and Equipment, we buy a lot of landscaping equipment to cut the grass and that kind of thing, lawnmowers. Milton Cat, they're a company that we don't use them that often, but periodically the DPW has to do work on the fields, and they provide like trucks if we have to lease a truck or a backhoe or something like that. So that's a good company to have in case we need them in an emergency. Arca's company is they're on the state contract, and that's a technology contract for John Souza. Singer Kitteridge Food Service. Now, this is a new company that we've added to the list, and the reason why we added them is they're under the food service equipment, but we purchased a lot of food service equipment through this company for the new Blanche James School. So we thought it would be a good idea to have them under contract, especially where they're providing us with food service equipment for the new school. Suburban Glass and Mirror, they pretty much do everything. They're on the trade contract with the state. They do waterproofing. They do doors and windows. They do a lot of stuff. And they're actually a new contract that would like to engage with them. Train, they do rooftop units. So we purchase a lot of rooftop units, equipment. We purchase any types of filters, belts and that kind of stuff. Valley Communication, that's another company who's providing us with technology in the Blanche James School. So we thought we should have a contract with them because most likely we'll be doing business with them down the road. WB Mason, I think you're all familiar with them. We purchase all kinds of stuff from WB Mason. They're under the state contract. And then there's Wally Computer, which is another local company that's here in Easton that we purchase computer equipment from. And they're also providing us with a lot of technology equipment for the Blanche James School. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'll try to answer them and go from there.
Does anyone have any questions? Dave, I must have missed it because I was troubleshooting something else. The Singer Kitteridge Food Service?
Yes.
That's just the equipment, right? We're not changing food services.
No. We're going to talk about that in a little while. But no,
Okay.
basically, Singer Kitteridge, they sell kitchen equipment.
Okay.
So we purchased a lot of our kitchen equipment for the new school, for the Blanche James School, through Singer Kitteridge. So again, we felt that we should probably have a contract with them in case something breaks. Although everything's under warranty, it would just be a good idea to start having them under contract, especially where they're under state contract. So it actually is a good company to have.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Other questions? So can we vote this through as a group?
Yeah, sure. You can do them all. Just one motion.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'm sorry, before you do, David, was Weston and Sampson, they're not on this
Do that
list.
separately. That's kind of like a separate, it's an annual contract, but I'll do that separately because that has,
Okay.
there's a little bit more detail to that.
Will that separately tonight or at another meeting?
No, I'll do it tonight, right after we do these here.
I think that's
Okay.
item 4, Chrissy. I think.
No, that isn't, but that's okay.
I can jump to that if you want. I mean, if there's no questions with this, we can jump to the Weston and Sampson. It's up to you.
I don't know if you'd rather just vote for one because, make one vote.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Rather than two separate votes.
Yeah, so basically on the Weston and Sampson contract, that's a 2-year contract with a 1-year option. So this is basically our option year. So we're looking to extend the contract 1 year. This is one of those contracts that we do at the town. So that's a good thing. We get better pricing. So that, as you know, the town has wastewater treatment plants that the DPW needs to maintain. So we joined together with them and we put out one bid, and we have Weston and Sampson as our vendor. I just wanted to let the committee know that the price increase is based on the consumer price index. So I believe that for this month, the consumer price index had gone up. I think it was like 7.5 or a little bit less than that. And I'm anticipating, I'm not 100% sure, but I think for next month, it might be around 8%. But again, we don't have that number yet, but it's all based on the consumer price index. So we're paying $99,600 this year for operations and management of the wastewater treatment plant. And so that'll go up approximately $7,000, depending on how the CPI plays out over the next month or so. But Weston and Sampson's a great company. We've been doing business with them for, I think, probably like 9 years they've operated our plant. They've been working very closely with Perkins Eastman. As you know, we're doing some upgrades through the school building project. So they've been working closely with Stantec, our consultant, and Perkins Eastman on the design. So we've had a good relationship with them. And I think extending this contract would be the right thing to do.
Any questions? Jen?
David, I might be confusing this with something else. Was this a contract where I think a few years ago it went out for bid and we didn't, were they the only bidder last time? We went
They might
out.
have
Was
been the
this
only bidder. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but there's a good possibility that they were.
okay? Yeah. Okay.
But they're a good company. I mean, we've been working with them for the last several years, and I think the good part about them, especially this year, with the Blanche Ames School coming online and the repairs to the wastewater treatment plant, they've been operating our plant. So if there's any questions or any kind of issues, they could work very closely with Perkins Eastman and Brait and Stantec, who's our consultant on the wastewater treatment plant. So, but they work really well with us.
Any other questions? All right. Someone want to make a motion to approve these contracts? All right, I will. I make a motion to approve the contracts as presented tonight for the upcoming year, correct?
Yes, just for the upcoming year, correct.
For the upcoming fiscal year. So do I have a second?
Wiseman, second.
Roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Variance, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Dar, yes.
All right, thank you. All right. Approval of district food service vendor contract.
Okay, so this one I'm presenting for Maryland, but we did have a subcommittee that worked on this particular contract. And so Nancy DeLuca was the representative for the school committee. So we had two vendors who submitted bids. This is all following the Chapter 30B procedures and guidelines. So the two companies that submitted bids were Whitson's, which is our current vendor who does a great job with our food service. And then a new company that's trying to get into the Massachusetts area, and that's Fresh Picks. So again, we had a subcommittee. We reviewed their proposals. We brought both companies in for interviews. They actually brought us some food, and we tested the food out. They had cookies and brownies and different things like that, which was pretty good. And I think basically this would be a one-year contract with 2 option years. So it'd basically be a 3-year, but each year we would have the option to either extend it or to not extend it, similar to the wastewater treatment plant. So Whitson's, again, was the company that we chose. Their bid's a little bit higher than Fresh Picks. Their total cost for management would be $111,000, $111,069, whereas Fresh Picks is $80,000. However, you got to remember a couple of things about food service contracts, and that is there's a guaranteed profit. So Whitson's guaranteed that they would provide the school district with a profit of $115,098, whereas Fresh Picks only guaranteed a $21,944. But not only that, the reason why we want to go at Whitson's is, as you know, with the pandemic, it's been a real struggle, and a lot of companies are struggling getting workers. And this past year, Whitson's, a third of their workers, they usually have 30 food service employees that work for the town of Easton. This year, they were down 9 employees. So to try to get new employees and bring in a new company, we felt as a committee that was going to be kind of a tough road to hoe. Plus, we also like our food service manager, Roberta. She does an awesome job. She works really well with the district. And we felt that if we went with another company, we have the potential to lose one of our most valuable players in the food service area. So again, that was a reason. And then one last thing, the price, the reason why the price was a little bit different. This year, unlike in the past, the insurance for the food service and the software was included in the bid package. So that's why the bid might have come in a little bit higher. So with that, I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Can I just add in that the process itself is a very thorough and comprehensive process. And it is at first a blind audition, for lack of a better way to say it. So they look at the contracts and they do the tastings without knowing necessarily who the actual vendors are. And then they make the decision. Obviously, there are influencers with our history with Whitson's. However, my understanding is that the actual choice was Whitson's, regardless of the benefits that we have provided. Is that true, David and Nancy? Would you say
That is an
that's
excellent comment, Chrissy. You're dead on.
Okay.
So basically, the way procurement works for food service, there you have the non-price proposal. So you just look at the non-price, you interview them, you go through the whole process, and then you pick the vendor that you want. Then you open up the price proposals. Sometimes the best company has the lowest price, but sometimes the best company is a little bit higher. But you have to kind of weigh like which one's going to give us better service. The other two things I forgot to mention is that one of the things that kind of swung us in this was that Whitson's has a lot of experience working in Massachusetts, and they're very familiar with the policies that Desi has, whereas Fresh Picks is somewhat of a newer company coming into Massachusetts, so they're not as familiar with some of the Desi regulations. And the other thing for this year that Whitson's was going to do was they're going to work with ADP, which is like a payroll type of company, but they're also getting into personnel. So they're going to be working with ADP on trying to recruit food service workers. So we're not down 9 people like we were this past year. So those are two factors but Chrissy, that was an excellent point by you.
great? Thank
Get a
you.
thumbs up on that one.
Any other questions? Jen?
So what's the price increase over this past year's
So,
all-in price?
Yep. So FY22 Whitson's charges $97,586, whereas starting next year it will be $111,069. But again, last year the last contract did not include the food service software, and it also didn't include insurance. I'm not sure what the price is for that, but it was included in the bid document, so that made it kind of crept up a little bit on that. So,
And we can get you those numbers for what they were, because I think that's a better comparison to see what the actual increase would be, because we did have to pay those other costs.
Okay, yeah, because it's a 14% increase, but like you said, it's the percent increase is
Right.
less once you factor those costs in. And again, knowing what inflation's done in the past year.
yeah.
Yep, that's.
But I also
So-
think you got to look at the guarantee, I guess, because they're guaranteeing that we'll make at least 115,000.
Yeah, what was
The
our
other company, didn't.
past
94,000
guarantee?
was the last one.
94?
Yep. For the last
Okay,
contract, yeah.
all right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that more than offsets
Yep.
the cost difference, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay, all right.
Yeah, typically, sometimes, I mean, now that with the pandemic and everything, in the past, a lot of school district would lose money on the food service. Whereas, I mean, with this here, that's a pretty good guarantee. So,
Mm. Okay. Thank you.
Caroline? Oh, I'm sorry, Jen, were you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Caroline?
I'm just wondering, based on a lot of the contracts that we've reviewed with the new school project and so on, there are instances where when the lowest bidder is not selected, the next bidder, the lowest bidder then essentially protests the decision or it's sort of a court process. And I didn't know if you thought there would be any kind of risk. I mean, I understand that the bid itself is not the sole factor, but is it different for food service contractors? Do we have more flexibility? Because sometimes it's almost a requirement that you take the lowest bid unless the lowest bid doesn't include all of the criteria that were established to begin with.
yeah, so food service bidding procurement is very regulated by the Department of Ed. So you have to follow their procedures. I mean, anybody can always protest the bid. Doesn't mean they're gonna prevail. But I think in this particular case, I think we followed our due diligence. We brought both companies in. And in fact, we liked Fresh Picks a lot. And Marilyn had a very nice conversation with the manager for them. And she actually encouraged them in the future to submit a bid. We just felt that they just didn't have enough experience because there's a questionnaire that, and Nancy, I had to fill it out. There's a questionnaire that had like maybe 10 questions, and you had to go through as a being on the subcommittee, and you had to kind of rate them. So Whitson's got the highest ratings on that when we had the questions. So they're really probably, like, again, anybody can protest any bid, but I don't think they would prevail because we did our due diligence. Nancy, would you agree with that? Not to put you on.
Total- Yes. Yep. So, no,
No, I
totally
agree. I mean-
Both companies.
Any other questions?
Well, I was just going to say that I'm not questioning the decision at all. I think we've had wonderful experience with Whitson's in general, and there are a lot of factors that seem to be better with their bid. But I just wanted to be sure there wasn't like a particular risk. It doesn't sound like there is, given the amicable conversation that Marilyn had with them later. I just know that does happen sometimes, and it can be problematic.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Caroline. I'd agree with that. It's true.
David, will we be returning to the level of choices and service and quality pre-COVID?
Yeah, they said that that's what they're hoping to do. They're actually going to survey the parents and students more often. So they actually talked about that in their presentation. And then they also, I mean, we got to taste some of their food. They're going to do some different stuff as far as options for students. So yeah, so that's what we're anticipating.
Great. Anyone else? All right. Would someone like to make a motion to accept this contract?
O'Neill, so
I
moved.
make a motion to it. Okay. Second, DeLuca.
All right, roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durant, yes.
DeLuca,
That's a
yes.
5 and a dog.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, great, thank you.
All right, have a great night, everybody. Take care. Have a good weekend.
David,
Thanks,
have a
you
good
too.
night. All right.
Thanks, David.
Next up is vote to accept a donation from MIT Lincoln Laboratory to Iron Tigers robotics team. And Dana's on a telephone, so.
Yes, and I'm unfortunately unable to move him to a panelist because he's on a phone, but I can allow him to talk. So I'm going to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So it is with great pleasure to share with you. I'll have Kelly talk about it, Ms. Kavanaugh talk about it, but we did receive notification that MIT Lincoln Laboratory would like to make a significant donation to the Oliver Ames robotics team. So I'm going to have Kelly talk about how the notification was presented and what the amount is going to be.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. We are really honored to accept or to share with you this donation from MIT Lincoln Laboratories, which Dana Billy, one of our parents of a student on the robotics team, worked with the company in order to have this donation sent to us. So it's a significant number of laptops and computer devices that are going to be sent to us. Now, I'm not a tech person, so I'm going to let Dana explain a little bit more about what the devices are and how they are used in robotics. But I just want to extend my sincerest thanks for this significant donation. And Mr. Billy, are you able to unmute and speak with the group? Let's see.
I'm not sure if he,
Not sure he was able to. Okay, so let me
Right.
share with you what the
oh, wait, here he is.
great.
Hello.
Yes, great.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Hi. How are you? Sorry about that. Yes. So Lincoln Laboratory is a federally funded research and development center. I worked there for about 8.5 years and worked with George Hickey over there, who's kind of heading up IS, to see what we could get for a donation to the Iron Tigers robotics team. We're kind of at a disadvantage for computers that can't handle the CAD software that we run and stuff of that nature. So With that being said, they donated, I don't have the sheet in front of me, but it was something like 17 monitors, 6 workstations, 12 laptops. And so the laptops don't have hard drives. I'm an IT guy full time, so that's not a problem. So what I'm going to do, if this is accepted, is build these systems up and get them in use to the robotics team for the software development, for CAD development, so that they really have, kind of up their game for computer processing power that they need in order to program and design and build the robots.
Fantastic. And this donation has a total valuation of about $70,000. So that's obviously for your approval, for the school committee's approval, but we are very honored for this. We also did speak with John Sousa, our director of technology, to ensure that the maintenance of these devices can be maintained through the technology budget. And he does say that they will be able to be maintained yearly.
That's awesome. That was going to be my question. Are they going to be able to connect to the systems in the school? So I know that's also been a issue that we've had to try to troubleshoot. Awesome. Any questions? Jen?
No questions, but just a comment to Dana to say thank you for this. This is really extraordinary. I'm sure it will help the team in their endeavors. And just wanted to thank you, Dana, for all you do for the district. I don't know if people know what a super behind the scenes parent volunteer you've been over the years, but for folks who don't know, Dana is one of the folks behind the Haunted Hallways project or fundraiser at the Easton Middle School, which ran pre-pandemic. And that's just one of the many things that he has participated in as parent volunteer over the years. So we're incredibly grateful for your involvement and all that you bring to Easton schools. So thanks.
Thanks very much. It's my pleasure.
He's one of the mentors on our robotics team too, which has been wonderful. All right, any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion?
Michelle, I'd just like to add a thank you also. This is really an exciting donation. I mean, and I'm just thrilled that we're going to receive this wonderful equipment. So thank you so much, Dana. I didn't quite get your last name, so I have to call you by your first name. Thank you.
It really is.
Absolutely fine.
The team's really struggled every year with not having the right software to execute out what we need to build and compete with this robot. So this is huge. It's very grateful, Dana. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? I would like to make a motion then to accept this extremely generous donation of lots of computer equipment to go to the benefit of the OA robotics competition team.
I would like to second that, DeLuca, because I know my son is also a mentor on that team, and this is an amazing donation. Thank you so much.
Roll call vote.
Neil, yes.
Durance, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
You too. All right. Next up, ECAT update on new technology. I believe that goes to Nancy.
Thank you, Michelle. Jason and his team over at ECAT over the last 2 years have been very busy, not only around town, but in the Oliver Ames High School. And in furthering the mission of the Easton Community Access Television, ECAT, to develop and produce educational, cultural, and informational community programming for the town of Easton, ECAT has invested in video broadcasting and streaming infrastructure in the Charlene Dalrymple Auditorium and the Simmons Lecture Hall at the Oliver Ames High School. The auditorium now has 5 robotic cameras and is fully integrated with the existing audio, projection, and projection system in the sound booth. This will enable more efficient and higher quality video programming in that room. The Simmons Lecture Hall has been furnished with 3 robotic cameras, a new audio system, and projector. Additionally, it has been wired as a true hybrid conference room that enables seamless participation, from those in person as well as remote. This equipment was installed in the middle of the pandemic and is getting increasingly used as meetings and programming returns to Oliver Ames High School. ECAT is proud to be able to support the Easton Public Schools with this investment in technology. And I believe that the rounded amount is about $85,000 that ECAT has contributed to these 2 places. There is also more on the table as far as making that a better hybrid room, but they're also going to make the town hall hybrid, because there are so many meetings that happen, but some people still would like to be, on the Zoom because of COVID. So I just would like to I would like to make a motion to formally thank the ECAT, for all they have done for us. And whether we just send them a thank you note or get a little something for them, they really have gone over and above, what we need. And I truly, I was hoping today we would get back to Simmons, but I know we can't. So, and I get that whole thing. So it is becoming a wonderful room to have our meetings in, and other meetings too. So I just would like to make a motion to send ECAT a thank you of some kind.
You in charge of that, Nancy?
I am.
All right, then I second that.
Well, we don't have a vote on the agenda, but yes,
Oh,
I think it's a
okay.
great thing
You're
to
just looking for
suggest.
support.
Yes.
We can have a consensus.
There we go.
We can have a consensus.
You have
Yeah.
support.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
everybody.
And I
thank
put
you,
it in
all
ECAT.
there a couple times for because of robotics is next to it, and it is amazing the equipment that's in there. It's just phenomenal. I can't wait to see it in action. So thank you to ECAT for doing all that.
And Jason Daniels, honestly, the man is a visionary. So special thanks to Jason.
He is a visionary, yes.
I do have this in my notes for when it's my turn to speak, but Jason Daniels is leaving ECAT next week.
Oh no.
And I think, it's a huge loss for us. He is moving on, and I just hope I wish him well.
Yeah.
He's
We
been
do too.
wonderful to work with.
He really has, and he's contributed so much.
Wow.
We will miss him.
That's a
for
shock.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. School council presentations and vote to approve EMS and OA. Chrissy.
Great. So Mr. Carroll, let me promote them here. And Mrs. Kavanaugh are here to present their school improvement plans. Mr. Carroll will start off by sharing the Easton Middle School improvement plan, and then Ms. Kavanaugh will go after. So I'll turn it right over to Mr. Carroll.
Okay, thank you. Bear with me for a second while I learn how to share my screen. How did I do? Can you see it okay now? Okay. Well, with our school improvement plan this year, we met, as a school council, and one of the things that we started to realize that, over the past couple of years, coming out of this challenging and difficult time, that it became really important as we started to see that, the kids were having a difficult time, whether it be with regression or behaviors or things like that. The charge of the school council and the direction that it really started to go was that with our school improvement plan, we had to really get back to the basics. And so our school improvement plan really centered around a focus in 4 areas: around student behavior, around focused intervention, around curriculum, and around finding, keeping, and growing the best teachers possible. I want to thank the members of our school council, the parent members that we had this year: Jen Daly, Kim Dykeman, and Lisa Taba. I want to thank them for their participation throughout the year. And I also want to send a thank you out to our faculty members who participated on the school council as well. That was Michelle Goldman, Suzanne Lynn, and Lindsay Whalen. So I want to thank everybody for their participation. First goal that we have this year is for next year is by June 2024, the Easton Middle School will establish a new school-wide approach to improving the behavior of all students and reducing student behaviors in the following areas: chronic absenteeism, discipline referrals, bullying, cyberbullying, harassment, and any behaviors negatively impacting students' civil rights and protected groups. Some of the data behind this goal is the adolescent wellness survey that we had this year showed us that the percent of students that had experienced bullying was at 36.2%, and electronic bullying 26.2%. Now, those are numbers that we hadn't seen at the middle school in terms of bullying since at least 2015. It was significantly higher in bullying. It grew by over 12% as we came out of this pandemic. And then the electronic bullying nearly doubled. And so that's something that we had seen a drastic increase, particularly this year as we came back in full time. In Aspen, I generated some student data as well, so that we could have some goals that we built this around and have some data to fall back on as we take a look at how we're doing over the next 2 years in this area. Our discipline referral average, meaning how often a teacher refers a student for disciplinary consequences to the main office, that on average was about 2.6 referrals a day. The absences was about 6.3% was the daily average. Our tardy school rate was about 2.1% on a daily average. And when I say specific at targeting negative behaviors, what I'm speaking to is specific incidents that reflected in the previous goal that we're trying to target to change, whether it be a protected group or civil rights infraction or something like that, that there were 15 incidents that were referred for intervention or for disciplinary review. So we certainly want to target those areas. So I wanted to make sure that we had data to fall back on to know what kind of progress we're making on this goal. The action steps that we have in place, that some of these are things that we have done before and we know they are successful. But I think as we got back into this year, there's some things that we realized that, they were successful, but just as some of the kids regressed a little bit, I think sometimes we regress a little bit as adults as well. And we have to get back in sort of the swing of things and make sure that we're using, our schedule to the best of our ability to really impact students. So we tweaked our summer reading program. We originally had gone with the one school, one book theme, in which we rotated different themes each year. All 3 grades were reading the same summer reading book. This year, the theme is going to be on anti-bullying. The major difference is that we're going to target anti-bullying, and each grade level is going to select their own grade level appropriate book, as opposed to the entire school sharing the same book. Another action strategy is we're going to incorporate into our educational programming materials from the Harbor. Now that's something that we've done before. The Harbor is a program that's put out by Jostens, and because they help produce our yearbook, we have a membership to Jostens, and they produce a series of videos by Mike Smith, who is an incredibly dynamic speaker. And that series of videos comes with a curriculum, and it's really around character building, and it could address a number of issues, including bullying and behaviors and peer pressure, judgment, things like that. So we've used that before with the schedule changes. We started to incorporate the uses within the focus period, but I think we have to do a better job of pushing that information out to the teachers so they know it's an available resource and target specific times during the year where we're addressing certain things with the kids in focus. So we're making some changes in that area, and the Harbor is certainly going to be part of that. We also want to identify and train student leaders. That's really something that's already begun this year with a peer leadership program that's sponsored by the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL. The World of Difference Institute is going to provide students with an opportunity to reinforce our core values, such as respect and civility. This is a program that we've already got underway with training students and training advisors. It's something that we'll expand upon next year. We've begun having conversations, they're student-led conversations in our grade 6 classrooms. And so we're looking forward to growing that program next year to help us with this goal. Obviously, I had said we wanted to incorporate into the focus period materials that will assist the teachers. The Harbor is one of those such materials, but we want to do more than just that. And so we want to really try to see if we can utilize more of the focus period to be things that are important to the students, things that are important to our school community, in a good way to really share information and make sure that we're teaching the kids some of these skills that we really need. We're also going to provide all the faculty with the Ross Green book, Lost and Found. Those have already been purchased. We have them here ready to go out to teachers as a little bit of a summer reading assignment for them. And that goes hand in hand with the next action strategy, which is we're bringing in the collaborative proactive solutions, the CPS behavioral approach here at the middle school, which should really help change some of our student behaviors, but it's certainly going to be a mind shift for some of our staff as well, which is why we're going to provide the book as summer reading for when they leave. So in the last faculty meeting on the half day, when I meet with the teachers, one of the parting gifts will be the Ross Green book, so they can read that while they're sitting on the beach. We're also going to provide enrichment for all students and education for the parents in the areas of cyberbullying and internet safety. And if you remember in the past, we've had Katie Greer here once speak at the middle school. She does grade level presentations for the students on internet safety, on apps, on anything related to technology and phone use. And she is a dynamic speaker. She's incredibly bright. She tours nationally, speaking at schools and speaking at businesses. She is featured on CNN and Fox News and you name it as panelists at different times, because she is the foremost expert in this topic. And she doesn't really take the approach of scaring the students, but she definitely shares a lot of information with the kids and mistakes that she has seen from other students and things like that. In addition to her doing a presentation for all 3 of our grade levels, this is already scheduled in September. We had an opportunity to have one more student presentation. So we offered that grade 5, that presentation to grade 5 at Richardson Olmsted. So she's going to do 4 student presentations here for us in all 3 grades. And she's also going to do a presentation for the 5th grade at Richardson Olmsted. And included in her coming in for us at the end of September is a parent presentation that is open to anybody in our school community or anybody anybody in any bordering community that wants to attend. And she helps parents with real information. She gives really good examples, and she gives really helpful parent tips, because a lot of times these kids, their knowledge of the technology is really surpassing, all of ours. And so she really helps parents better understand the technology and better keep an eye on better ways to keep an eye on exactly what your child is doing. And so we're really hoping that by bringing her in, it impacts that cyberbullying piece, but that'll just be the start in September. It's also something that we're going to have to reinforce, within our digital literacy curriculum, within our health curriculum as well, and certainly something that we can reinforce in our focus periods. We're going to establish a handbook committee that is going to meet this summer. We're going to review all the policies in the handbook. We're going to review our attendance letters. We're going to review our policy and how we follow up with meetings, and just to see if there's any changes that we can make that to better impact student behavior. So that's also something that we have planned. And it was late breaking, so I don't have it in the actual school improvement plan, but I do have one additional action strategy that doesn't show up in the original school improvement plan, but is in the presentation, because as part of our grade 8 civics projects, we had a couple students that really wanted to take a look at bullying, take a look at some of the bullying data. And they had some ideas about curriculum and classes and different things like that. But as we were talking to them, basically, we agreed that they were going to sort of partner, and as part of their project, this ongoing project, they were going to try to explore additional resources that could be part of an anti-bullying curriculum that may be shared to teachers, so that we could target on a regular basis some type of education around bullying in our focus periods where we have that opportunity. And they're also going to see if they can target enrichment programs that are available to schools, where we could have an entire class assembly or class meeting, potentially even the whole school, if we find the right program. So they're going to take a look and see if they can come up with some other resources that we can share out to teachers. So it was a nice job by the girls to sort of step forward and want to do something helpful. And I'm not sure if I know that Molly couldn't come today. I don't know if Anna is here, but certainly a shout out to Anna Luisa dos Santos and Molly Nager for stepping up and trying to make a positive change on something that they think would make a major difference. And so we're working with them now on that last action step to see if they can provide additional opportunities that we can use in focus, and additional opportunities that we could evaluate to see if we could bring in an enrichment opportunity, obviously funded through the PAC. So that's it for the first goal number 1. Goal number 2, like I said, in the original intro, behavior and intervention was the second area. EMS will promote high academic expectations through increased tier 1 instruction for all students, focused intervention for the lowest performing 20%, and using research-based instructional programs for them. In tier 3 intervention opportunities, basically pull-out intervention to impact the lowest 5% of students who have the greatest need. By 2024, progress will be made in the areas of achievement and growth in the MCAS, math, and ELA, helping students meet state's accountability targets. Some of the data behind that, I pulled some of the MCAS data, because really the simplest way is to take a look at what is the state expectation and set that as where we want to be and what we're targeting. So right now in ELA, and this is coming out of 1 year without MCAS, this is these scores that are reflected in this year, was where the testing wasn't what we've seen in the past. It was cut down to 1 day as opposed to 2 in different areas, and it was much shorter. but it is still some baseline data that we can use and reflect on as the next 2 years take place. So in 2021, we had 10% of students exceeding expectations in ELA, 47% meeting expectations. In math, 5% exceeding expectations, 43% meeting expectations. And the improvement target, when you say target, the target score that you're looking for is 75. We were underperforming in terms of the target score at 65%, substantial progress. So that is something that we want to change and grow by 10%. How we're going to do that in terms of action steps, we're going to review the MCAS data and identify areas of both achievement and challenges. That's something that we consistently do with a SWOT analysis each year with our MCAS data. We're going to schedule and hold grade level meetings in all MCAS areas, and STAR 360 benchmark data will be addressed as well. So we are currently using that. This is something that we're growing with our intervention program this year, but we expect much bigger things and much more of an impact next year. We're going to synthesize findings into a meaningful and collaborative way with the data review with teams of teachers. And we are, and in order to identify the trends and design interventions appropriately. So all these interventions, whether it's tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, is done not only with our coaches, but it's also done with the teachers and with team meetings in which we review this data. And it's not just the MCAS data, but we're also reviewing STAR data as well. We're going to regularly schedule our student intervention team meetings to ensure students at greater level of risk, whether it be academically, behaviorally, or emotionally, are receiving the support and making progress. That's something that we've made a lot of changes to this year, changes for the better. We'll continue to do that over the next 2 years with a better referral process, with more involvement, and making it more team-based approach as we have these meetings. We're going to increase opportunities for vertical conversations among staff, improve knowledge of the standards, and improve differentiation across grade levels. We're going to use data to drive the decisions about intervention programming. That's something, as you can tell, there's a lot of data that is already being used, but we'll have additional sources for that as well. In addition to the core level instruction that's already going on, we're going to have students are going to have opportunities to access supplemental computerized programs that allow for independent practice, whether it be homework, whether it be additional work that gets done in resource room or in an intervention program. Students would be able to access additional programs in both ELA and math. And last, it came out of originally we're evaluating if in our special ed programming, is our schedule really lending itself to really get the best out of our special education programs. And that original idea then grew into a review of our entire schedule. Now, we have gone through a schedule change fairly recently. And, there was a lot of focus groups and search groups and data that went into the changes that we already made. But just because of that, that isn't enough not to really look at the schedule, because if we're going to be checking it out to see if we can do things better in special education, if we have an opportunity to review and have an outside set of eyes look at our schedule to see if there's any other things in that schedule or changes that we could make that is going to better student learning, then we're going to do that. So we are establishing a steering committee to be in combination with a high school steering committee to review both the high school schedule and the middle school schedule. And that's part of the next step solutions schedule evaluation. And they're going to make recommendations as part of that. And they're also going to identify strengths within the schedule. So we look forward to that over the course of next year. School goal number 3, staying on curriculum. The Easton Middle School will continue the implementation of understanding by design planning process and structure to guide new curriculum and reorganize existing curriculum. By June 2024, all departments will complete the framing of all vertically aligned units and full development of all units in all stages and the implementation of units using the Understanding by Design process and incorporate the Massachusetts state frameworks and providing implementation feedback through the Google Drive. So this is a goal that is carried on with us. And when I get to the data, now I'm not gonna go through all the data that goes back to 2014 when this really long journey began. But we did, as we were nearing the finish line, the pandemic curveball certainly made it a little bit difficult. So we're trying to get back on track, make sure that we get this work going again and get it completed and implementing all of our units. So as I move to the action steps, obviously we want to increase opportunities for departmental collaboration within this new schedule. That's something that we've already done, and we do have a lot of departmental opportunities. We're going to complete the framing of all standards-based vertically aligned units, full development of all units using the UBD model. We're going to implement completed units as well, and we're going to provide feedback using a peer review process, and we're also going to pilot in grade 6 literacy programs, one literacy program in the fall and one in the winter, and select one for implementation. And one of the reasons behind this, or one of the good things behind this, is that that these programs are sort of built in that UBD way, and they will sort of provide essential questions and things like that. So we're excited about that and having to evaluate those programs. And we're also looking forward to the implementation of the district level curriculum review process as well. And the final school goal, by June 2024, Easton Middle School will establish new hiring practices that will recruit, support, and retain the highest quality faculty and staff. I'm not going to go through every single data point in here. It's just sort of identifies some of the things that we currently do within our hiring process. Obviously, anytime we do the hiring, we try to have a committee of people that are involved, whether it's people from the same department, from the same grade level, whether it's guidance counselors. We try to have a committee of people that are part of the interview process. We always try to bring back our candidates when we can to teach in front of live students, because sometimes somebody can be really great in an interview, but you see a different person when they're in front of students, and vice versa. Sometimes you have candidates that may not come across great in that interview, but they are dynamic in front of students. So that's some of the things that we currently do. We currently do social media checks, reference checks, things like that. But with the addition of of Melissa in Human Resources, we're certainly looking forward to new and better ways to get out and truly find the best teachers for our kids. The action steps that we have in place for this: we're going to increase opportunities for both formal and informal observations and feedback. We're going to create and use new job descriptions that will increase the attractiveness of posted positions. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes what you have is, you have a posted position on SchoolSpring, and what people are seeing is, we're hiring a history teacher in 7th grade. And, what they don't see is anything that sort of sells the district. So we want to sort of change some of that and come up with different descriptions of the jobs so that it's more attractive when you're taking a look at the posted position on SchoolSpring. We also want to establish partnerships with universities to help target top candidates moving into teaching. Now, we have some of those already in place, but we want to have more of them. We want to accept as many student teachers as possible, without impacting our students in a negative way. Obviously, there's an interview process for that, but we certainly want to encourage student teachers to be here, because not only are we going to have an opportunity to help grow future teachers, but we're also going to have an opportunity to really try out future teachers as well. And so we're looking forward to doing that. Traditionally, traditionally, we usually have to, 2 or 3 a year, not just in student teachers, but student observers as well that will come in that have to do a certain number of hours as part of their educational programming. So we want to increase in all of those areas. We want to increase our attendance at job fairs to increase visibility and identify outstanding teaching candidates. That's something that, is I think is necessary to ensure that we're really out there recruiting and looking for the best people. We also want to establish new teacher roundtable meetings. This is something that has been difficult, recently, but it's something that we would like to start beginning to schedule, where we always have faculty meetings on the first Monday of the month. We want to have opportunities for people that are in that first year to sit down and just talk about their experiences. Some of it would be pretty open-ended, but some of it is going to be, things that, sometimes there's things that you learn as a teacher that you don't learn it until it's happening. And we want to make sure that we're sitting down with and going through scenarios and things that happen and things we've seen, so that teachers are better ready and more equipped to handle things as they come up, because you don't want to wait till somebody is concerned around child abuse or something like that to have a conversation about mandated reporting and things like that. So we want to sort of turn this opportunity after the end of faculty meetings to have a short roundtable discussion to talk about different things. Some things will be directed by us and some will just be directed based on the need of the teachers. And we know that they have mentors and things like that, and that does an outstanding job. We just want to add an additional layer of support for the new teachers. And we want to implement new ways to prioritize the hiring of a diverse faculty and staff to better mirror our student population. And that's something that we'll be working with the new human resources director, Melissa, as we move forward. Questions and comments?
Does anyone on school committee have questions, comments? Jackie?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Carroll. I have a couple of questions. The first is about the collaborative proactive solutions. Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, it's a behavioral program or philosophy that's based on trying to sort of promote the good, not all about the punishment of the bad. It's not, you did something wrong, here's your consequence, and when you do it again, you're going to get a bigger consequence. It's around addressing when a student is dysregulated or or has a behavioral problem. The root cause of that is that maybe they're missing a skill or there's something that they haven't learned yet. So it's around teaching to the deficit. It's around really being more positive with behavioral interventions with the students. And it's something that we have right now. We have a sort of a team of people that will be the first layer to go through the training in beginning in the fall. We'll go through the training, and then our hope is that they will then start to be able to have conversations with colleagues and talk about other challenging behavioral issues and other ways to do it. If there's one thing that we learned this year, that some of the traditional ways of doing things may work for a large percentage of our students, but it's not working for all of our students. And so that change is to help really grow our staff into better ways of addressing students and behaviors.
If I can just add to that, Luke, you did a great job explaining that. Ross Green is, if anyone follows his work, he's brilliant. He does a lot of work around looking at a child from a lagging skill perspective. So very similar to when a child has difficulty reading, we really are able to dig deep and figure out what is the skill that they are struggling with, and we address that. Instead of saying this child can't read, we say, okay, this is the skill that they need more work on, and we're going to address that with specific instruction. And so Ross Green's work is utilizing that same philosophy around behavior. So if a child is struggling with a particular behavior, instead of saying, oh, they're just acting terribly, we actually dig down deep, try and find the root cause, as Luke explained, and provide direct instruction to that actual lagging skill. He has a book that I've actually recommended to parents called The Disruptive Child. It's wonderful, great resource. He then wrote Lost at School, which I used many, many years ago, and has actually reworked that into Lost and Found. When the middle school guidance team came to me and Teresa Skinner and asked us to look into this program, I was so excited because I've used his work a lot in my previous years. And we were able to reach out to his company, and we are contracting with them to provide this training to a core team who will then go out and train. For example, Luke is going to obviously be on the team, and he has to work with a child and specifically as a member of the team, and come up with strategies and action plans and stuff like that. And then the coach will actually coach them, coach each individual team member to, and say, yep, you're on the right track, or try this instead, so that it is a gradual release, so that our staff can work with the remainder of the staff. And it is a mind shift. It's rethinking behavior. It's we came out of this pandemic, or are coming out of it, because we're not out of it, but we are recognizing all of these lagging skills that many of our students have. And we thought that this was just such a perfect opportunity to pilot this at the middle school, see what the need is throughout the rest of the district, and really dig deep into changing a mindset. So,
because that was going to be my other question, is do you have the staff to help implement this? Because it seems like, it sounds great, but it also sounds like a lot more work. And so I just didn't know if you were going to have the staff to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's built into it. So it's a team, Luke and Stephanie and Luke, the administration at the middle school are in the process right now of identifying teachers to be on the team. There will be like a lead teacher at each grade level, if not more, including specialists. And they're doing a wonderful job trying to identify that team. And then we were able to, out of some of the grant funding that we have received, utilize some of that to provide a copy of Lost and Found for everyone at the school, which has been great. And there are going to be follow-up book clubs for those interested in talking more about the book throughout the summer and into the fall.
Thank you. Mr. Carroll, I also wanted to ask you, I know you talked about the recent change, or the somewhat recent change in your schedule, and I know the focus period was part of that change. It's a relatively new part of your schedule, and I was just wondering how you've been finding it working out.
Well, I think that when we changed, you guys, you were here when we changed the schedule, and it was a really long process, to that. But we only had 1 year under that new schedule that was a full year, because the very next year we left in March, and then the following year we had to completely change the schedule to be able to have a place for all of our students and have scheduled classes within that hybrid schedule. So it was really a 6-period schedule that we were following. So this is only the second full year that we're working under that new schedule. But the one consistent thing that seems to be the feedback that we're getting that needs the most work is the sort of the structure and the planning around the focus period, and that we need to be sort of providing more for the teachers and other curriculum opportunities and things that we can do in the focus period, because it can't always be this student needs to go play basketball, so they're going to go play basketball. We want to have other things, whether it's cleaning out your locker or executive functioning skills, or intervention programs or extra work in math or ELA or things like that. But there's also, things that we see around social emotional learning that we want to better address. Certainly with bullying or just general behavior, how students, treat their classmates, things like that. We want to have more ready built or opportunities or things that we can share out with the teachers so that they have more to do during that focus period. So that's something that we talked about as a scheduled committee. We met a number of times this year to evaluate the focus period, and it's something that we're going to put a lot of effort into to try to provide more for the teachers. So that's probably the biggest drawback that we see from the schedule right now, is that the focus period needs a little fine tuning.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Whoops.
I also just wanted to add, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
No,
Then
I was
Jen.
just going to say that, I met with Luke about his plan, and he's got very high expectations. I told him, to pick one subject, not more than one. Of course, he picks them all to raise achievement in, because and also just to add that the one of the things about the units that's important to remember is that we had just adopted our new math program at the middle school, and then COVID hit. So we didn't have an opportunity to really get the ball rolling on the new units. And then also in social studies, the standards changed. And in ELA, we are adopting a new program in grade 6, as I've been updating you at each meeting. So I just wanted to kind of give you some background on the units. And then also the exciting thing about the achievement goal is that we have a math coach now at the middle school. So she's, this year we had Jeannie Baxter in the literacy coach role, and she has done phenomenal.
Huge shout out to Jeannie Baxter. Yes,
Yeah,
did a great job, not just in the intervention program, but also in making changes to our student intervention team as well.
Yeah. And Lindsay Whalen will be taking that position as a math coach next year. And she's already meeting with Jeannie and already planning. So I met with them as well. And it's going to be a fantastic team. And I know in speaking with Luke, we are just super excited about what is coming around curriculum and instruction at the middle school.
Thank you. Jen?
It's just a couple of comments and a question. So thank you, Jackie, for asking about CPS, because that I had questions there too. And so that's already been answered. I love that you're bringing back Katie Greer. I think my older kids were probably in middle school the first time I saw her, and I've seen her present multiple times. And she's another one of those incredible resources who's really, really impactful. And I think we are, the timing is definitely right, and maybe a little long overdue, due to COVID, to have her back. So I think that'll be really impactful. So thank you for that. Let's see. I really love the 8th grade civics projects. Looking forward to being able to see some of them next week, but just the surveys and what's come out from them so far in the community is very, very impressive. And so, just kudos to everybody at EMS who's making those so meaningful. And I love that you are incorporating some of their work into the school improvement plan. I can't think of a better representation of, this is democracy in action. So that's really phenomenal. My question, Mr. Carroll, is on the achievement gap or the achievement metrics. Those are based on MCAS scores, where you're identifying students by percentile, bottom X percent of performers, bottom Y percent. Are there ways to also identify the students who do just fine on MCAS, but day to day in school underperform where you think they would? How are you able to account for those students?
We're also the MCAS data is just, it's one data point. It was the easiest one for me to pull, and the one that makes the most sense when you're trying to establish, what is the bar height that you want to clear? Because if the state is going to say, this is your target goal, then we want to meet that target goal. But we have a variety of data points, whether it be at the grade level with a mid-year or a final in, say, math. But in addition to that, we also have the students going through the STAR testing as well, where we're getting additional data sources on their reading and their math ability, including, ranking, so it puts them, where they are at compared to their grade level peers, nationally normed stuff. We're doing that. And then, in the individual classes as well, because a lot of our assessments, are because of we've increased the opportunities for grade level departmental time. A lot of our assessments, as we get further on with UBD and everything else, are also becoming common. So now those common assessments are also factors that we can take a look at, whether it be in team meeting or departmental meetings, to assess students and where they're at and what they need.
Okay, thank you.
And it's also interesting because with the STAR data, for example, just on the contrary, we have a student that achieves high but does really poorly on the STAR assessment. So we can actually go in and see, oh, they answered, it is on the computer and it is typically timed. Sometimes a child will just go in and choose C, done. And we're able to see that and say, can you take this over again, please? Let's make sure that this matches. And we have caught that a few times, right, Luke?
Yeah.
So there's it's the data meetings they dig deeply into that, where we're looking at the MCAS scores here, but if you were able to attend a data meeting, they dig so deeply into all of the perspectives of the child and really looking at the whole child.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nancy?
Yeah, thank you, Luke. That it's quite impressive. It's, as the other girl said, it's quite a list of things to do, but I know your staff and your administration can do it. And I love the fact that you're giving out prizes, books to read at the beach. That sounds great. But I think in general, would you say, I know pandemic has, raised havoc everywhere, but do you think, I mean, the attendance thing, the bullying, all that, do you think that the new schedule helps, hurts? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we had the one full year under the new schedule.
Right.
And we didn't see, like, some of the things that we're seeing, not that you can't blame everything on the last 2 years, but I mean, I think that, we were seeing things from a maturity level that could only be really attributed to students they weren't here for 5th grade, or they missed most of 4th grade, and really, I think that's what we were seeing. I don't think it was really schedule related, but I think in getting back in, we opened with a goal of let's build relationships, and that was really the focus and the priority, and I think in doing that, we also sort of forgot about the middle school kids. Middle school kids, Nancy, they crave structure as well, and routine. Anybody who's been in this building on a half day knows that any change to the routine changes everything. And so I don't think it was really related to the schedule. I think it was related to a moment in time. And I think that this school improvement plan, although it is pretty lofty in terms of the action steps, really what we're trying to do is just get back to the basics. Because the last thing we need to be doing is worrying about a science score or something like that when we're seeing some of the challenging behaviors from the kids. But we are hopeful that with a good start next year and a really strong plan, that we're going to get there.
Right, and you have an assistant principal with you for the whole year next year, so that'll make a difference. But
she,
you had some
Stephanie
students
Santos,
that,
and she's
presented-
not with us today. She's not with us today, but that's because we were slightly double booked. So she had to do the introduction of our music programs at Oliver Ames while I was here for the school improvement plan. So we had to divide and conquer.
Oh. Okay, but what I was gonna say is you had some students at our last meeting present for Easton 84, and they were terrific. Oh, my goodness. So
They're
I feel
great
like
kids.
if kids can sit down, if kids can sit down and talk to each other in small groups, I feel like they just need to get off phones and computers and look at each other and talk and just, you know, get to know your friends, get to know people, rather than being like isolated in that world of technology, which thank goodness for technology over these last 2 years, but it just, we need to rebound by being proactive. That's all I'm saying.
Agreed.
But thank you. You did a great job, Mr.
Thank you.
Carroll, as usual.
Caroline?
Just quickly, I'm really pleased that you're focusing on bullying and cyberbullying. I know that this is actually a national concern, so we certainly would not be unaffected by the increase in those areas, the unfortunate increase. And also, I wanted to mention that I'm very pleased to see the, you know, sort of the creative supports that you're providing for your teachers, particularly new teachers. I think that's really critical. So, nice job.
Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion to accept the Easton Middle School School Improvement Plan for 2022, 2023?
O'Neill,
So moved to Luca.
Neil moved, DeLuca second. All right, roll call vote.
Okay.
O'Neill, yes.
Durant, yes.
Luca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. All right, next up is the OA School Improvement Plan. Chrissy?
Sure, without further ado, I will turn it over to Mrs. Kavanaugh to share her first Oliver Ames School Improvement Plan as her first year, as completing her first year as principal. So I feel like I want to take pictures, you know, at your retirement party, make sure that we post them. But without further ado, Mrs. Kavanaugh.
Thank you very much. I had a wonderful first year, if I can just take a moment to say that, and how much I appreciate the support of the community and you as a school committee. I've really been honored to take on this position, and I'm very grateful for it. So let me share my screen and share with you the Oliver Ames School Improvement Plan for next year. I should turn this to present mode. Okay. Oopsie, hold on one second. That's not right. There we go. I do that often. I click the wrong button. Okay. So first of all, I want to take a minute to thank the amazing members of the school council at Oliver Ames. The teachers, Megan Campbell, Elizabeth Starr, and Mary Wisnauskas, are two amazing students, Kailash Ganesh and Maximilian Gradzuk. And then our community member from RMK, Jackie Grant, and our parent members, Cindy Boyle, Karen Corey, and Barbara Fox. We had incredibly engaging conversations about this process and about the school improvement plan, and their voice is very much heard in all of these goals and action steps. So to head into the first goal, we want to focus on increasing opportunities for students to engage in activities that prepare them for postgraduate planning. And I think, as you know, we've already done some of this work by looking into early college credit programming, as well as certificate programming for students to gain career-focused experience at the high school level. So our goal here is to, first of all, I'm going to jump to my next slide for a second. The first goal has a NEASC background to it, but it's also something that we feel as a community we really strongly want to invest our time and effort into, and that is to create the vision of a graduate of an Oliver Ames student. The vision of a graduate is very similar to the foundational transfer goals that we have as a district, but it actually provides very specific skill sets and competencies that we want all of our graduates to attain in the 4 years at Oliver Ames. that you can measure, and we can give feedback directly from students. So we're in phase 1 of this, which is to look at the EPS foundational transfer goals and engage various stakeholders. And this process has begun. I want to give a thank you and my sincerest gratitude to Matt Turgeon, who's leading this springs. He's a physics teacher at the high school. Focus groups with faculty to learn what things do we already do that are addressing these foundational transfer goals, and what are you proud of? Like, what are you proud of that we do every day to prepare our kids for life after OA? But the next slide I'm going to show you, this is the messaging that our kids get, right? So we have so many different things built into our school. We have our district core beliefs and our district foundational transfer goals. We have our school core beliefs. We have our school academic expectations and social civic expectations, our tiger mindset. It's just a lot. So we need to narrow this down into one visual that can be in every single class that gives students an understanding of what our goals are for them. What is the promise we're making them that when they graduate, they will have these skills and competencies that are going to support them, and no matter what they do when they graduate high school. So phase 1 is to develop that specific graphic with measurable skills and competencies. And then next year, you'll see in our school improvement plan will be to then implement that into our UBD work and find a way to give students measurable feedback on how they're doing on those goals. And those things just take time to build in. And then the second thing we're going to work on is increasing those opportunities for colleges, early college credit opportunities, or the opportunity to engage in college coursework. And we have a number of colleges that are interested in that I'm working closely with Dr. Cabral and Mrs. Pruitt, as well as our guidance counselor who's heading our early college and career planning, Dan Fitzgerald. He's doing a great job. And we already this summer are offering a college course in engineering and design through Boston Architectural School that we have 4 students taking. And this year we offered certificate programs in babysitting, CPR, and first aid, which we had, I believe, a total of 28 students participating in. So the more opportunities they get, the more, I think, career exploration they'll get at the high school level, and the opportunity to head into college with 2 things. One, some credits that they can apply and potentially maybe save some money, the experience of having been in a college class. And then for some of our students who maybe might not know if college is for them, it could give them the confidence that it is for them, that they took a college course in high school, and exploring college opportunities postgraduate is completely attainable for them. And that's our goal. Okay, so the next goal is looking at mental health in our students. So if you look at our youth risk health survey, you're going to see a 50% increase from 2015 to now in the number of students identifying as having depression. We also find that in our buildings, and this is anecdotal, but the use of the word anxiety to describe how kids are feeling is minute to minute in our building. And our students, whether it's self-identified or they're diagnosed, are stating that the level of anxiety that they're feeling at school is impacting their ability to access the curriculum and just be in this space. So the first thing we applied, this is actually completely student run. We have a group of about 10 students who applied for a grant with Kyle Cares in order to start our own chapter of Active Minds. And Active Minds is a high school and college focused student-led organization that works to destigmatize mental health, and it trains students to be peer mentors and supports for students who don't feel okay. And it's that messaging that it's okay to not be okay, but we have to ask for help and we have to ask for support. So over the next year, we're going to increase the number of members in this chapter and potentially start what's called a green bandana campaign. And essentially students who have a green bandana tied to their backpack have been trained in how to help someone who's not feeling okay and give them the support that they need. So we're going to hopefully have many of these in our school and start to just talk about how mental health impacts us every day. And built into that will also be mindfulness strategies and coping strategies to support students within the day. I think a lot of times our students run to their phone for those coping strategies, and we're going to build in through our advisory program ways for the Active Minds chapter to teach our students how to manage the stress of the day, whether that's social, academic, family related. We want to another program that we're applying for grant money through Kyle Cares and as well as Sarah's Village is to have guest speakers and professional development opportunities for families and for our faculty in supporting students on mental health issues, as well as the signs that a student might be anxious or having a difficult times, like what are those changes in behavior that a teacher may identify and could refer a student either to our student intervention team or to their counselor for support. And then finally, this is similar to what Mr. Carroll was just sharing. Our student intervention team right now spends a lot of time focused on students who have already been identified as being in need. Students on 504, students on IEPs. So when I joined the student intervention team, we had a lot of conversations about how we can adjust our programming and our process in order to support kids in the general education setting through identification of teachers or counselors that may need additional supports at that tier 1 and tier 2 level. And that means things that we can do directly in the classroom and things that we can do for pull out, like our study skills programs, our math skills class, our English skills class, as a way to target very specific needs that the students identified as having academically. And then our school adjustment counselor, Ms. Uccioli, started running small groups for students this year that have targeted needs. We've done some work with an outside organization to do grief counseling, and she's done some small groups for transfer students. We do notice that our transfer students have a more difficult time acclimating academically and socially to our school. So those are the action steps in order to address mental health needs, or at least begin to address the mental health needs of our students in the next year. And finally, our third goal is to increase opportunities for the Oliver Ames community to identify and discuss issues around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And I've done some of this work in the sense that I've had parent coffees throughout the year, student focus groups throughout the year, and as well as a alumni survey that really focuses on how is your experience in terms of that sense of belonging, and what areas do you see that Oliver Ames has for growth. And the frequent messaging. Oh, and included in all this is the individual teacher interviews I had over the summer last year, where about 80% of our teachers met with me and talked about these issues. And that's where a lot of this need comes from. So we're going to create a diversity, equity, inclusion student advisory council as a group of students who can share with us their experience at school. It's going to be a lot of listening this year and a lot of understanding the different perspectives and experiences of the students and families at Oliver Ames in order to identify next steps and how to educate our students and create a more inclusive environment. The next step is to partner with the equity series that Ms. Pruitt runs in order to bring guest speakers both in for our students and for our parents and our faculty to talk more about equity and inclusion within the space. And along with that, I'd love to see some conversations around cultural proficiency and understanding how different cultures approach socialization, approach education in different ways. And sometimes a student in your classroom might seem disengaged or might seem as though they are not paying attention or distracted. In reality, learning is messy and loud in their culture, and the teacher's mind might be that learning is quiet and individualized, right? So how do we make sure that all students can see themselves in the learning we have every day? And then right now we have the ADL peer leaders group, which you know has been going really well. The next step is to increase the amount of time that they spend. So this year they went into English classes for 9th graders twice. And with the gap of ability to have the ADL peer leaders in classrooms during COVID, I'd like to see them in some of the other grade levels and also increase the amount of opportunities they have. I was able to observe several classrooms that went over different stereotyping. And I saw the bell rang and the kids weren't ready to be done with the conversation. They want to talk more about gender stereotypes and about racial stereotypes. And the ADL peer leaders are trained so well in how to navigate those conversations and give the students the language and a little bit more confidence in how to participate in these conversations in our space. And then finally, we've started a handbook review process right now. Right now, we're cleaning up our handbook and making it more organized and easy to follow, and taking out some of the information that isn't necessarily applicable to a student handbook. And then next year, our goal is to really look at it from an equity lens. Are all of our policies gender inclusive? Are they anti-racist? And so next year, we're going to look at our handbook policies in order to ensure that we're including all of the different needs of every population of our students. And the last thing I forgot to mention in the first bullet is that equity team of adults as well, and potentially some students. But another goal that we have is to create a team of faculty and parents to meet on a regular basis to hear parents' perspectives of and experiences at our school, and to do that outside of our space. So to try to identify areas in the community that are easily accessible to a variety of different people. So maybe we go to certain areas downtown or certain areas over near Target where it's a lot easier for different families to access, because not everybody can always get to the high school at the times that we've been having our parent coffees and things. So I'll learn from the community what the best places and times are in order to have these meetings and try to schedule a variety of different places. So that is the end of our 3 goals, and I'd love to answer any questions you have or listen to any comments that you have, and I will stop sharing so we can see everybody better.
Anyone have questions, comments? Nancy?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Kavanaugh. That was very informational. And again, like Mr. Carroll, you had a lot going on because there's so many loose ends to be tied up, and to, you know, to bring it up to speed to 2023. But very good. And now, does your school still have this? I know that the advisory block got changed a little bit, so we're not having that speaker every month, but you still have people coming in, right?
Yeah, we had 1 guest speaker this year. We waited till we felt like it was the numbers were in a space where we could have full assemblies, but our goal is to continue that next year with a combination of guest speakers on mental health and wellness and diversity and inclusion.
Right. And I think that's great that you have the speakers. I hope that during those advisory periods that the kids have time to discuss it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to have this nice assembly. You have this person come in, they talk to the kids, but then where's the outlet? You know what I mean? So I hope that that it continues in a positive way, because like Mr. Carroll, you've had kids come before us that I am blown away by their maturity, how they speak and everything else. And I know that's not everybody at the high school. So I just think everybody has that potential to be confident and have a nice feeling about themselves. So thank you for all you do, and good luck with this list.
Thank you. Yeah, and I really appreciate your comment. It was one of the common themes after our guest speaker is how do we continue this messaging? And we've tried to do that through advisory. I think we can do a better job, and I hope to do that next year.
Caroline?
Well, you certainly have hit the ground running. I just wanted to particularly note that I really appreciate that you're coming up with creative ways to increase parent involvement. I do think that's really critical. And that's all I'll say for now, so that we can have a nice short meeting or rest of the meeting.
Jen?
Just wanted to say, this is very impressive. And I think having kids right in that community and being within that parent community, I think your goals are right on target for, the needs that that seem to be most prevalent right now. So I'm very glad to see the focus where it is. And I do think the mention about having meetings outside of the school area, like, I live in an end of town that nobody ever comes to. I'm like, oh, imagine if we had a Southeastern meeting. Imagine if there were a meeting over, closer to the Norton side of town that feels, can feel pretty far flung from that school campus. I think thinking about that and making it happen would be really well received. It's a small thing, but it's a big gesture. So I like that thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other comments? All right. I'd like to make a motion to accept the Oliver Ames High School School Improvement Plan for 2022 to 2023. Do I have a second?
O'Neill second.
Roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durant, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you all very, very much. I just want to thank everybody who helped me write this plan. It's definitely not my plan. It is a community plan. So just a shout out to everybody who helped with this. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Discussion of policy public comment at school committee meetings, file BEDH first reading, and I'm going to toss it, I guess, to Jackie. Kind of headed this up.
Okay, Nancy, hop in whenever you want.
Okay.
So Nancy and I had our policy subcommittee meeting. And the first policy that we looked at was our public comment policy. Now, right now we have a public comment policy and we have guidelines. And our school committee attorney, Rebecca Bryant, had drafted a revised public comment policy for us to look at to be in compliance with the current law. And she had also suggested that we combine the policy with the guidelines. And if you look at the policy and the guidelines, there's really an awful lot of overlap. It doesn't really make sense why we have to have the policy and the guidelines. So part of what we were thinking is we would just get rid of the guidelines, just focus on the policy. And the policy is fairly similar to what we have. There just had to be a few tweaks, again, to be in compliance with the current law. So and Nancy and I thought, we took Rebecca's base and we tweaked it a little to be more in compliance with what we had done in the past. And we thought, we'll have this discussion, get everyone's comments and finalize the policy. And then we'll just give it to Rebecca for one last look to make sure it's all okay. And then we can have our second vote. So Nancy, am I missing anything?
No, it sounds great. You're doing a fabulous job.
Thank you. So, let us know if you have any questions or comments about the policy that as we have drafted it or revised it, I should say.
All right, I do have something that kind of jumped out at me and I'm trying to find it. Hold on a second. Okay, so in under number 3, where we talk about the time limit, we talk about a request for an extension. So my comment with that is, I personally think there's 2 options listed here, is to notify the chair by phone or in writing. I think it's a lot, regardless of who the chair is, to have a chair have to answer their personal phone. Like if we have a topic that's more community involvement than another one, that could be a lot of phone calls. I think that none of us have an office or a desk at 50 Oliver Street or in the Blanche Ames. So then is Lynn fielding all these phone calls? I think that's a lot to ask for her.
Well, I think the extension time for under this, and Nancy, correct me if I'm not saying this right, is for if somebody needs a reasonable accommodation on the basis of a speech-related disability, or if they need language interpretation services. I think that is the extension of time for by phone or email is just for those options. Is that, Nancy, is that how you remembered it?
That's right. And right. And I believe that's what we had talked. I remember we had discussed this at length, and no, nobody wants to be getting 1,000 phone calls, but it's only for that group that needs that accommodation. And
So,
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say the school committee has an extension at central office. Like when you call, I think we have a line, but I'm not sure.
and the reason we had phone and email is because this is specifically for people who need these accommodations. Somebody doesn't have access to email, or, we wanted to be able to have, again, this was based on Rebecca's suggestion to have those two options. If you see in that paragraph, I think the second sentence says, normally you can give an extension of time of the 3 minutes during the meeting if you want. Like, that's just for in general. This is really just for these exceptions, for these accommodations, I should say. Does that answer your question?
It does. It's just that you have them contacting the chair, and the chair isn't necessarily accessible to a phone.
Okay.
It's just my feedback. I don't know, maybe a future chair that wouldn't.
It's also something that we could look into as we transition over to Blanche Ames, with the new offices. Is that something that we put in an additional or an extension be for school committee to leave messages? That's something that we could look into.
Yeah, I guess this could even, maybe we could clarify it a little. I can write it out a little more. That they're not going to necessarily be able to reach you by phone for this, but they could leave a message with the chair's secretary if they need an accommodation, something like that. Would that make it?
We're getting.
Because Lynn is
Yeah,
the chair's secretary. Sorry, Lynn.
Right. Well, that was
Yeah.
the other part of my comment is as long as we're not setting Lynn up for an inundation of phone calls, then that's fine.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think this is just for people who need an accommodation based on what's stated in here. And I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of that.
Okay. All right.
But again, we can revise. So
No, as long as those are the only two scenarios. I mean,
Mhm.
I just, in my head, I was envisioning the phone going off. Poor Lynn.
Michelle, I actually agree that maybe it shouldn't be a phone call to you or to the chair. It should be a phone call to Lynn, to the school committee administrative assistant. I know she's also primarily the
Right.
superintendent's administrative assistant, but it doesn't really make sense because chairs will be changing, and it really makes more sense to have it go to central office, and then it could be either just an email or a call to the chair, whoever that is, that there is essentially a request for the extension based on some sort of inability to use the regular channels. So
And I'm assuming that Lynn or somebody at central office would be setting up for an interpreter. That wouldn't be something I would do, or any chair.
right, you wouldn't do that anyway. So I would take out the chair as notify the chair, but through central office. You can just make it that big. What do you think, everybody?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Or I was going to suggest maybe the school committee chair via email or the central office via telephone. But I like this. I like actually the chair through the central office because, again, as Michelle mentioned, if we needed an interpreter, the first thing you're going to do is reach out to Lynn or whoever's in Lynn's role to say, "Hey, we need help with this." So.
yeah, we can certainly revise it to read like that.
Do we, under item 5, I think my concern here is that to a casual reader, it's not as obvious that they should not speak about individual comments, should not address or speak of individual students or staff members. So I don't know if we had any language from the previous one that might make that more clear.
I don't think we did. I'll have to double check it might have been in the guidelines. Yeah, I mean, I can revise that to make that a little more I think in the guidelines, it said something like, will not hear personal complaints of school personnel or any member of the school community. We just have to be careful how it's being written so it doesn't look like we're inhibiting free speech.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But we can certainly clarify that a little.
Is this not in line, Jackie, with how the other town committees are handling it? I know that was something.
Yeah, so I spoke to Chair Fulgenetti, and she didn't say whether they were revising their policies or not, but she, I think the way they handle public comments a little different, because they haven't traditionally or in the past couple of years had as many participants in their meetings as we have. So I think normally what she said they would do is a topic would come up, they would discuss it. She would ask the board members for their comments or questions, and then she would open it to the public for their comments or questions on that particular subject. And I don't think they really had a public comment period where people would bring up other issues. That just didn't happen as much in the last couple of years. So I don't know if they will, what they'll do when they go back in person, if they're going to have to deal with that. Certainly we have had a lot more participation in our meetings than they have over the last couple of years. And I mean, we can kind of figure out how you want to handle, do you want to do it that way? Do you want to have, we talk about subject A, the committee members ask their questions, and then anyone that's at the meeting, if they have questions on that particular subject, or you want to wait till the end, that kind of can all be something that we work out. I think this is just more guidelines for, the public comment at the end. In the past has always been for public comments for items that weren't on the agenda, but people had questions or comments about. And I know that's kind of changed a little over the last couple of years, and we can kind of work out how we want to do that. But we want to make sure that whatever guidelines we have in place or whatever we have in our policy is in compliance with the recent court decisions. And so this was kind of a way to make sure that we were updating our overall policy to be in compliance, if that makes sense.
So it's more, they have up to 3 minutes to say comments. It's not.
We could do it however you want. Like I know over the past couple years, you've wanted to wait till the end for anyone's comments on whatever agenda items we have. And so if that's how you want to keep it, that's how you want to keep it. That's fine. It's just however they present, whatever they're presenting, whatever their questions are, whether it's on an agenda item or not an agenda item, there should be specific guidelines on how that can be handled. And again, these are things that you could say, like if there's a big issue and we know we're going to have a lot of people and you want to give people more than 3 minutes, you can do that. It's really within the chair's discretion how you want to do that. But this is kind of like the baseline.
Okay. All right. I just don't want my phone ringing off the hook. Other than that, I'm good with it.
Totally get that, Michelle. Totally get that.
Say it again. What,
I
Nancy?
totally understand what you're saying. I totally understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
You
Sorry.
don't need your phone blowing up. Yeah. Okay.
Caroline?
You actually got me thinking, Michelle, is there some way of articulating with just a brief sentence that if someone is making a presentation that's not, there for the whole meeting, like the school committee members or usually it would be the superintendent or assistant superintendent, that but if someone comes to us to make a presentation and people who are there want to ask questions or for clarification or whatever on the presentation, it doesn't, it seemed to make a lot of sense to go to the end of the meeting during public comment period. So is there a way of just saying if people have questions, and I would say specifically questions about outside presenters' presentations, the chair has the option of allowing that to occur before the presenter, will be leaving or whatever, because I don't know that people who come to present to us necessarily want to stay for the whole meeting. And we did encounter that once, and it was really important that the person who was attending our meeting on Dr. Bornstein on our behalf, that he was there, because it turned out there were a million comments and questions that we wouldn't have really been qualified to respond to. So I'm wondering if there's a way of sort of making sure that that the chair can make that exception if there are questions specific to an agenda item by a presenter who will be leaving the meeting. I don't think you have to put that part in the policy, but do you know what I'm saying? People that aren't already part of the meeting, like school committee and superintendent, assistant superintendent, but others. And the other very small thing I wanted to mention on the third paragraph, you have, in order that all citizens that wish to be heard before the committee have a chance, and to ensure the ability of this committee to conduct the district's business, et cetera. I would just add a very small, it's a tiny little matter, but I would just say have a chance to do so, just because it kind of blends into the next sentence, and have a chance is a little bit open-ended. But I think you and Nancy have done wonderful work on this, Jackie, and I so appreciate it. I think you've obviously done a lot of research and, spoken to key people. And of course, you've taken the advice of our attorney. So we're lucky to have one of you who's also an attorney and can look at those things with that legal eye. So thank you very much for working on this policy.
I think that with regard to your question about opening it up to the public for questions or comments on a specific topic after agenda item, I think the chair has that ability no matter what.
Okay.
I don't think that necessarily has to be, I mean, we can certainly put something in if you want, but I think the chair really has, it's really her call on who speaks when.
I'm fine with not putting it in if you don't think that we're sort of implying that there's a prohibition if we're putting public comment, at the end. And I mean, I agree, the chair has always had that discretion, at least informally. So, if that's going to remain in place,
I can certainly check on that.
Yeah. I would prefer actually not to clutter up the policy with additional verbiage, but on the other hand, I wanted to be sure that we didn't preclude that from happening if the chair at his or her discretion thought it was necessary.
Sure.
I
can definitely look into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think on that, Jackie, I agree with your interpretation of that, but I do think it would be prudent to get Rebecca's take on it. I think over the past couple of years, just given how active meetings have been and how unconventional the content and decision making has been, or the decisions that we've had to make have been, we've kind of gotten away from, we've conflated public comment with Q&A. So I think there's a distinction between this is addressing public comments versus if there were a presentation where, again, we did have a guest and we anticipated questions or comments from audience members at that point. I think and again, Jackie, you can confirm this with our attorney, but I think as long as we announce at the beginning of the meeting, after, item whatever, we will be taking, we will pause for a few minutes to see if there are any, comments or questions. And that's different from open public comment, which is what this policy, I'm reading it as that's what this policy should be addressing, is that open public comment period, for meetings when we choose to add that to the agenda, which, our practice has been all of them, but that's, not, my understanding, not required, but is something that we choose to add to each agenda. So, or most agendas.
You guys did great work on this.
I think it's a big improvement. Thank you.
Yes.
And then just wanted to get your feeling on revoking the
Guidelines.
Yeah, the guidelines, exactly. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good. I do have a question because the guidelines do address the process by which somebody has an item placed on the agenda. Do we have, if we eliminate that, that's in the 2, 3, for the 5th paragraph. If we eliminate that, the guidelines completely, do any of our other policies address that? Or do we have other ways for the public to know how to get something on the agenda for discussion?
Not to interrupt, Jen, but it's not automatic. People can request,
Yep.
but they can't get something on the agenda. It has to be a request that is then vetted by, I assume, the superintendent and chair, perhaps.
Thank you. Yeah, that's important. Yes, thank you.
I don't think there's anything in the policy that directly addresses that. We can certainly can add it if you want. Nancy, what do you?
Yeah, no, we could, but like Caroline said, I think if somebody wants to put something on the agenda, that's another avenue.
Yeah,
That's
it
not
was
public comment.
well, right, but the information on how to go about that takes up an entire paragraph of the guidelines for public comment. So if it's not
Well, I
somewhere
think that was
else, maybe it should be just make sure that if there's a more appropriate place for it. I think it's useful
right.
information.
Yeah.
And want to make sure that we don't
They-
lose it
they-
completely.
It might be a good idea to put that on the website under school committee on how to request something be added to the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, it probably doesn't belong here, but
Yeah, I don't think it belongs on this policy, and it may be sort of would fit with another one of our 10,000 policies that we'd have to go through to
was just
find
gonna
out.
say that,
but I
We
do
can't
like the idea.
wait. Caroline, Nancy and I are all so excited about this.
we have a meeting in a couple of weeks.
This is a great policy revision. I mean, I know we're going to do a little tweaking, but yeah, it's. I think the idea of maybe putting it under school committee as an interim action, and then we can, if later on we find out that it would appropriately belong in a policy or is already in a policy somehow, we can take it off of that particular site. So. But that might be a good interim action because it doesn't really belong in the new policy as Nancy and Jackie have created it.
mm-hmm. Yep.
So I agree so for the next time for a vote, we're looking at removing this and with the minor edits we just said for the new policy, correct?
I think we can vote on removing the guidelines today, right?
No.
We
I think
can, if
so.
you want, or do you want us to look at that?
Oh,
again?
yeah, we can, I guess.
Item 9. I mean, I think if we know that we can get that language added somewhere to the website where it would probably be more useful and accessible to people, I would be comfortable voting on our agenda item number 9 tonight, just with that
Let's
I
finish.
agree.
caveat.
Okay, so 8, we're all set with edits. We can move on from 8. Okay, so for 9, everyone's
We're gonna see 8 again anyway.
right. For 8, you got to read again, right? 9, does somebody want to make that a motion to vote to eliminate BEDH-E?
I move to eliminate BEDH-E, the guidelines for public policy. Public comment.
Wiseman, second. Roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Joanne, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. Great work. One down and 300 more to go. All right. Vote to approve known Adam contract. Chrissy.
Thank you. So okay, 4 years ago, we adopted the No Atom science program as our main program for our K-5 science instruction. When we adopted the program, we signed a 3-year contract with the company. That contract is now up. So we are looking to sign another 3-year contract. I will tell you that implementation of the program has been off to a rocky start, but we are heading in the right direction. The rocky start obviously was due to the pandemic. We had a slower rollout with our K-2 due to the implementation of some of our other programs that we were implementing. And this was the first full year of implementation in our K-2 schools. We are also, and it was disrupted implementation in our 3 to 5 schools. This year, we actually, along with the implementation in the K-2 level, we had professional development that went along with it. Professional development for a select group of educators that were interested in participating. The group was called CHAMPS, where we actually went into each other's we went into classrooms of teachers. We observed a portion of the science lesson. We went back, we talked about the discourse between the students, and it was probably one of the best professional developments I've ever participated in. It was hard at first. It was definitely hard. We had a companion text that we read around student engagement and student voice in the classroom. And we had our reflection at the end, and the feedback was very positive. We are looking to duplicate that and duplicate it at Richardson Olmsted as well for next year, because we do see the value in having those conversations and looking at what's going on in our classrooms. Some of the things that we were hearing students say is just so valuable. For example, our 2nd grade teachers going into our kindergarten classrooms and hearing the kindergarten students talk about the way that the sun actually helps things grow or helps plants grow. And it was really just remarkable. And 2nd grade teachers, for example, were just mesmerized by the discourse that the students were having at the younger grades and how excited they were for those students to progress and get to them in a few years. So this contract is for another 3 years. I will also share with you that some of the practices that go along with No Atom are very compatible with some of the literacy programs that we are looking at. So the rigor in the reading in No Atom is really matches the science of reading, which is what we're studying. When I spoke with our consultant through No Atom and told him that we were really analyzing the science of reading, he was thrilled because he said that's exactly how what No Atom is based around. So with your approval, we would like to sign another 3-year contract. I will let you know that the cost is already in the budget. What's happening right now is we had a line for curriculum materials that I oversaw. However, what we found was that we actually write them, whenever we order materials, we write them to the schools. So that money is actually going to get reallocated, one to Blanche Ames, one portion to Blanche Ames and one to RO. So my line for curriculum materials will lessen, but that's because they're getting reallocated to the schools so that they will have the proper monetary, the proper funding for the need for the consumables.
Any questions? No? Does someone want to make a motion to approve this contract?
Sure. I make a motion to approve the No Atom contract.
Have a second? I will second.
DeLuca, second.
Or Nancy can. Roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
DeLuca,
Durance, yes.
can you hear me? DeLuca, second.
Yeah.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Alrighty then. All right, COVID update. See,
Okay, so just the update I have for you is around the summer school programming and testing at the summer school. So we ordered test kits for the students that have registered for our summer programming. Our intent is to send them home with students. We will not be testing at school. So they will be up. We ordered enough tests through the state to supply 2 test kits per student for all those that have enrolled. Of course, if you're not interested, we will take that information. A medical form will be going home to gather medical information that we need from all students that have enrolled in the summer school enrichment academy, as well as the extended school year program. And we will be providing those supplies to families through the programming. And that's all I have on the COVID update.
all right, great. Public comment?
Yeah, so there is one person, Maria Picanzi, hold on, 5 Wedgewood Drive. She asked, I had a quick question about contracts in the town. Are you entertaining additional vendors for the trades contract TRD01, ITC71 security or ITT72 voice telecom contract? Was there RFP that went out for these services? So if I can answer that question, she does then go on and say, basis for my question, Easton supports local small businesses. Is this correct? Being a resident since the 70s and our company is local, I'd like to offer our services to my town. Could I follow up with Mr. Twombly or someone else? Thank you. And that was exactly going to be my answer. Mr. Twombly said to please contact him. His email is dtwombly, TWOMBLY @easton.k12.ma.us, and he would be happy to work with you to work something out. And that is all the public comment tonight.
Great, thank you. All right, we have no superintendent notes. So assistant superintendent notes. Chrissy.
Sure, I'll try and be quick, I promise. So our Summer Enrichment Academy K-5 program has a wait list. We are very thrilled with the responses. Again, I just want to reiterate that this program K-12 is actually funded through a grant that Senator Timmelty actually was able to provide to us through the legislature. So we just really hope that this can continue because we are seeing so many people interested in participating, which we are really excited about. 6 through 8, we still have some openings. So if you are seeing that your child wants to enroll, please feel free to reach out and I will connect you to our Summer Enrichment Academy coordinators and get them signed up as soon as possible. And then I also just wanted to update you quickly on our literacy adoption plan, and that our last presentation for our fifth presentation will be on Monday, and we are hoping to have a decision on our piloting programs, the programs that we'll be piloting by the end of next week. And that is all I have for you this evening.
Great, thank you. School committee notes. Caroline?
Well, I'm sure others will elaborate, but we had a wonderful graduation ceremony last Saturday, and it was just such a wonderful visual the whole time, and the music was terrific from our talented musicians, and everything about it was just fantastic. And you and Michelle, you and Jen did a great job handing out those diplomas. And we, of course, greeted the students as they came down off the stage. I don't know exactly how many hands we shook, but it was in the hundreds. Anyway, but it was a wonderful event and very nicely planned and put together. And I know there have been a lot of other things that others will want to talk about. So I'll just move on to the next speaker.
Nancy.
Okay, yes, graduation was wonderful. Kudos to everybody. Class night was unbelievable. Such a giving community to our students. It's amazing to me every year. And today we had the Easton Educators Association had their retirement party, and it was every year. It's wonderful to honor the people that are moving on to retirement, and it was great to see a lot of new faces and retired faces. So that was very nice. But yep, Michelle and Jen, you were great up there, and beautiful day. And congratulations to all the graduates.
Jackie.
Just to build on what everyone has said, the graduation is definitely one of the benefits of being a school committee member, to be part of that. It's such a happy, fun event to see all the kids smile. It's just a wonderful event. And Mrs. Kavanaugh did a really great job for her first year being part of this. And also, as Nancy said, the retirement party, Eastern Country Club always does an amazing job. And it was really, that's another very nice event to be able to be part of. Again, a lot of happy, smiling faces of people getting ready to retire and having retirees come back and see everyone. It's a great event. So it was wonderful to be able to be part of that. Thank you.
And Jen.
Let's see. I'll talk about stuff we haven't already talked about. So along with graduation, the past 2 weeks were a whirlwind leading up to graduation. So thank you to all of the school staff and volunteers and family members and students who helped make the senior prom, the OA Safe Grad Parade, OA Safe Grad Night, such a success, in addition to class night and some of the other award nights. Looking ahead, I know we've got the junior prom is happening tomorrow night, so that'll be exciting, and I look forward to seeing everybody's beautiful photos of their children all over social media. So that should be a great night for our 11th graders. And then sports, it's playoff time. So we had, first of all, the track and field team went to the D3 state meet, I believe 2 weekends ago, and had quite a few students who finished, who placed in that meet. So congratulations to all of them. And then we had girls tennis, boys tennis, baseball, softball, and lacrosse all make it into the MIA tournament this year. Unfortunately, the seasons have ended for all of them, but congratulations for even making it. And the girls tennis team won their first round of playoffs on Monday, and then they were knocked out yesterday. But congratulations to all of those student athletes on a great spring season. And thank you for all that they bring to the school community. I think that's it. Oh, there's still, right, we're not done. There's still, 2 more weeks of school left, and the calendar is just jam-packed full of activities and events. And I look forward to, I know we, the school committee, have been invited to RO, to their cultural day exposition next week, and the civics projects in 8th grade. So I'm looking forward to getting some time in the schools and seeing the work that our students are doing.
Michelle, can I jump in?
Sure,
Michelle?
of course.
I forgot, unless you're going to mention, I was going to talk about the why.
Go ahead.
Was that on your list?
Nope.
Okay.
You've covered my list.
Okay. On last, was it Friday night, Saturday, whatever night it was. The Y had their gala, and the YMCA had their gala down at the Eastern Country Club, and they honored Northeastern Savings Bank, but they also honored Dr. Cabral. And I have to say, it was an amazing evening. So many people there, and just everybody giving of themselves for the Y. There was an auction and silent auction and so forth. But it was a really nice evening, and Jen and Michelle and I were lucky enough to attend. I want to thank Darcy for that. And but Dr. Cabral gave a lovely speech. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, going back to the Lions Club, is, and maybe Chrissy, you can answer this. That night was amazing, as we talked about at our last meeting. Is that piece of can that be put on on our Easton Public Schools website? The whole thing with all the teachers. Somebody asked me about that today, and I said I would ask, and I just forgot. But
Yeah, that's
is that possible?
Yeah, I know ECAT recorded it, so we just have to get it from ECAT to share the link on our website. So
Okay.
I can ask Lynn to look into that. Lynn?
Thank you very much. But congratulations to Dr. Cabral for that wonderful award. And we got to meet her parents who watch us every meeting down in Florida. So hello, Cabral. Well, it's not. Hello, Susan. Okay.
I'm sorry, Michelle, can I just add one more thing that I
Absolutely.
forgot? So ECAT recorded a tour of the Blanche Ames School. As it stands right now, Mr. Cedarbaum and Dr. Cabral did a short tour showing some of the main areas of the school. The video should be, I believe it's on ECAT. I know it's on our school website, it's on the town website, and I know a bunch of the principals were going to try to send it out in their newsletter. So I just hope everyone watches that, and we'll have another one coming up when it's completed. But it gives you a real flavor for where things stand in the school and what it looks like now. So I would highly recommend watching it. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. And you have all reminded me of how busy we have been the last 2 weeks. Holy cow, I can't believe it. Class night, amazing. We have such a generous community, and I thank them for that, for making such a difference in our students' ability to go to school and continue their education. Today was my first time at the retirement party. That was wonderful. I can't believe I missed it all these other years, so that won't happen again. And graduation, that's definitely, I agree, that's like the highlight of the year for school committee. It's such an honor to honor the work and the perseverance of those students who are in front of us, and the look on their face when they get their diploma, which are beautiful and with their names on them this year. That was gorgeous. It's just a special moment. So thank you and congratulations to them. I think that's it. All right. So our next regular meeting is June 23rd, and that's back to 5 o'clock. So I am going to make a motion to enter into executive session and not to return to open session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to bargaining unit A and pursuant to MGLC 30A 21A7, discussion of a contract. Can I get a second?
Star, second.
Roll call vote.
O'Neill, yes.
Durance, yes.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and see you guys in executive.